Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of The Shoney Show. And today we have an absolute tremendous guest, not just because he's an incredible business owner, an incredible coach as well as a consultant, but he's just an absolute tremendous human being, one of my favorite human beings in the world. He's been a close coaching client for about the last 3 years now, maybe 2.5, 3 years, something like that, Joel. But simultaneously, I just love the conversations with Joel. He's just an absolute brain full of business growth ideas. And every time I get the opportunity to sit beside him at a live event or jump onto a call, we always elongate it. We chat for hours, and he's just full of ideas. So I'm so excited to have Joel on the Shoney Show today. And albeit that I gave him a little bit of an intro there, I would love you to come in and actually tell the listeners exactly who Joel Stone is, because you've got your iron in a lot of fires, so I want you to be able to tell me exactly who you are, who you help, and how you help them.
I don't know how I can top that. I was quite pleased with that one. My name's Joel Stone. I run a marketing anti-agency called Codebreak. I'm the co-founder of that agency. I'm an author in the marketing space, podcast host, and an international speaker. I help small businesses get to 7 figures or their next 7 figures through digital marketing, and it's a wild space that I'm riding the wave. It's fun, and pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. And something that's very interesting about you, and you can actually talk a little bit about this, about how this dynamic works. But it's very rare in the agency space, the sort of done-for-you space, that there's also a coaching element. Because something that Joel does that is, well, Joel and Andy together as well, that you do that is quite unique, is that you do done-for-you services, but you simultaneously coach people. So How does that dynamic work, and what does that look like in terms of like a 90-day for somebody on the receiving end?
So the honest truth about that is, we are asking people to do things that make them feel very uncomfortable. So they're spending money with us. They're spending money with Facebook, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. And when you're asking people to make a 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand punt, although I don't like to think of it as a punt, but sometimes they do, that's pretty serious strain on the mind. And so Andy and I are both accredited coaches. We've both had colourful lives, let's say, and we bring that to our clients. So when they sit with us, we're not just looking at what they want to achieve, we're looking at why they want to achieve it. We're looking at what else they've got going on around them that might derail them, be that family, be that business, be that external factors. And we work with them, we hold their hand, and we coach them through the process. Because for me as a business owner, my success comes from caring about other people. And if I'm not coaching them through that process, I suffer, and I don't want to. So the more I help people, the more fun I have at doing what I do. And so we built that into our business. And I guess on a slightly more controversial point, there is a lot of terrible coaching out there as well. So we built it into our done for you service so that people can kind of see how they should be looked after, because we win a lot of work from kind of phony masterminds that we were talking about this before we started recording, the phony masterminds that charge 50,000, 100,000, and all they're charging you for is access to their WhatsApp.
Yeah, absolutely. And we won't talk about the ones that we were just talking about inside our 10-day challenge. But funnily enough, another one inside a 10-day challenge told me the other day he got more out of the first 3 days of a 10-day challenge that's £10 than what he just spent 6K on with another mastermind, which is absolutely bonkers. And that's not even really I don't even feel that that's massive testament to what we did. I think that's just the fact that there's some masterminds out there that charge extremely high prices. They know how price perception works. So actually, if I charge more, people will perceive even more value from it.
Yeah.
And people will sign up to it, therefore, and they'll think they're about to get 6 grand of value. But on the other side, it's not doing anything. You know, the
100%.
same person said he signed up to a 6K mentorship, but he said our 10-day challenge for £10 is his last attempt to stay in coaching because he's about to go and get a job and go out of the industry, you know? It's
Yeah.
pretty bonkers, but yeah, it's a really valuable thing that you're doing in the marketplace because, like you say, especially when people are not used to spending heavily in advertising and things like that. Even when people see success with advertising, it's like putting the foot on the gas is scary to them because they can see money in versus money out, but it still feels very alien to spend 3K a month or 4K a month or 5K a month or more on advertising. But yeah, it's something that you brought up on the front end there. It's actually a nice little bit of a segue is international speaker. So, you know, a lot of the time on the podcast, we talk about Facebook ads or we talk about social media strategies and things like that. But you know what really common question I get from coaches is I want to do more public speaking.
Yeah.
And it will be where do I get it? Like they want to do podcasts like this, but they also want to step on stages and they want to speak in front of people in a room. And now you have done all three. You are on a lot of podcasts. You have your own podcast. You speak on a lot of stages, including yesterday. And you've done that internationally as well. But you've also ran small group events also.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of public speaking in different ways. Can you talk to a few of those different ways of people finding opportunities to speak and how they can create a bit of that snowball effect that you have in the last, let's say, year and a half where it's really hotted up with the volume of your opportunities?
Sure. So I think it's fair to say I was one of those people that was asking you that question a couple of years ago. How do I get more
I
of this?
remember actually we were going back and forth on Voxer. I didn't even remember that there. I remember now.
I can imagine for you it's an irritating question, and not in the sense that there's anything wrong with asking that question. It's of course something you should be looking at as a business owner, and if you want that position in peace and you want that authority. But the honest answer is it's about doing the reps. And so you kind of have to go to the opening of an envelope to start with. And you kind of have to be willing to speak in front of people that might not be your crowd and make the mistakes and kind of earn the right to be there. And you also have to be willing to put your head above the parapet. So I promise you, the moment that you label yourself a speaker or you decide to start putting reels on your Instagram that are kind of position-based pieces where you're actually putting your opinion out there, for all the praise you'll get and the positioning that'll give you, probably an equal number of people will attack you for it. Maybe not online, but, you know, I've got friends that are like, who do you think you are, now that I kind of do that? And it's not even meant maliciously, but that's the place you're getting yourself to. So it's very much about getting outside of your comfort zone, being willing to do stuff other people aren't willing to do, being willing to be cheeky enough to ask people for the opportunity. So, for example, I went to Las Vegas in May and I wanted it to be a business trip. Read into that what you will. So I knew that the International Marketing Conference was on and I knew that they had rooms with guest speakers. So I just offered to speak for free. And actually the people there were marketing experts themselves. So it's a good positioning piece for me, but I wasn't going to earn money out of it. But off the back of that, that's opened other doors and other conversations to go and be a guest expert on podcasts, a guest expert on stages, to write the foreword in people's books. Different things come up off the back of it. And the honest answer to how do I get more speaking gigs is by offering to speak, which sounds wild because I think the trap people can fall into, particularly in the current environment, is there are a lot of event companies out there that will offer you a sponsorship opportunity that includes a 20-minute speaking gig, a 30-minute speaking gig. And then they'll tell you you're not allowed to pitch either, so you can't earn the money back from the sponsoring opportunity there and then. It's a delayed gratification thing. And ultimately, a lot of coaches can't afford to do that. They haven't got 10 grand to drop on that sponsorship opportunity. So you've got to find another way to benefit the people arranging these events. And it could be, I'll speak for free and I'm going to pitch, and you get 50% of all the revenue that I make there and then on the day. Or it could be, I heard you're hosting an event. I'd love to come and speak at it. I'm not going to pitch, but because I'm not pitching, I'll speak for free. Like, there's different ways you can kind of get yourself through the door. But until you're willing to be cheeky and actually put yourself in that position, these opportunities won't happen.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is that when they do start, they can start to snowball pretty quickly. Like, for instance, if somebody discovers you for the first time through this podcast, just seeing that you are great in conversation, that you're an authority status, that you've got loads of interesting things to talk about. Like, podcasts are looking for guests. Stages are looking for speakers. I started in the exhibition space. We had 3 stages that we were always trying to fill. And when people would reach out to us, we would book them. Like, we wanted people to reach out to us. And people often think that people will be like, wow, who are you? It's nothing more than a well-articulated email that's, like you just said there, what is in it for the person running the event. So don't just position it about what's in it for the people who are going to be on the receiving end. What is in it for the person who's actually doing the booking, right? So are they going to earn money from it? Are they going to be perceived as being the best person ever in the company because they've just filled up the stage and there's, great speakers and things like that? A lot of the first speaking gigs I ever got was by reaching out to, let's say, 25 different exhibitions, and where I could find anything through Google, sending an email with, I do a perfect 30-minute session where I walk through a campaign where we took people from here to here inside Facebook ads in 7 weeks. And that was my signature talk. I sent the same email to every single person, and I think I got like 3 back. And I spoke at an event for gym owners. I spoke at an event called the Scottish Business Conference, which was a room of all types. I can't remember what the third one was. Oh, third one was I actually got a speaking gig that somebody was hosting a like 9 to 5 event themselves at their like headquarters, and I got that speaking gig as well. Podcast was the same thing. Reached out to something like 250 podcast hosts, and I got booked onto like 5. But once I had done those 5, everything snowballed. I started getting emails and DMs. Hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And then it was, do you want to speak on my stage? And it really snowballed. So like you said there, like going out and like doing the reps in terms of going out and asking, can I speak for free? And then second of all, doing the reps to become a good speaker is important. So can you speak to that second part? Because that's another thing you do really well. Confident speaking, you're very articulate, you educate really well from stage, and then you also pitch really well. So Joel did a pitch yesterday in a room, and what was it, like 60% take rate for something that would be considered as a little bit premium?
60% take rate on a premium product, and then I'd previously done the workshop before but wasn't allowed to pitch, and so those people have now complained, and I've mopped up 50% of it. So it's which is now the point I'm about to make. After making that boast is going to sound awful, but the humility element of being a speaker is huge. Like, you kind of have to approach everybody with your tail between your legs and be willing to kind of sell yourself all the time. And I found as my business has got bigger, and in terms of being a good speaker, getting speaking opportunities, getting podcast opportunities, getting book opportunities, getting client opportunities, it's always about being humble enough to always be on the sell. Don't expect people to know who you are. Don't expect people to appreciate your expertise if they've never experienced it for themselves. Be humble enough to kind of be like, I think I can bring some value to your audience here, and this is what's in it for you. Rather than like, I can't believe you haven't heard of me and booked me yet. That's not the way to go. And that humility kind of should stem from everything, because the other side of that, when you do start to get the positioning and you do start to get the momentum, is kind of remembering that then there'll be people who are maybe intimidated by you, not in like in a scary way, but there's people who haven't had me on their podcast because they thought I'd say no, and they were great opportunities for me. So don't assume. Like, it's still okay to reach out to people and offer yourself and sell yourself. And I think because I work so hard on my positioning, I have to remember to remain humble at both ends. One, some people haven't got a clue who I am, and I have to sell myself to them. And some people really know who I am and would love me to sign a book for them, but think I'll say no to everything they ask. And it's a weird one, but that humility is a really important starting point. And then getting better at speaking is again about reps. So me and my business partner Andy had kind of a disagreement this week because my old university lecturer got in touch and said, will you come and do a lecture at the university? And like, my feeling on that is, what an opportunity. Like, how humbling is it for my old uni to reach out and say, oh, we've seen what you've done, come and speak. And Andy's opinion on it, and he's not wrong either, was they're only reaching out now you've done well. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, and I'll do it for free. But it's also an opportunity for me to get reps in front of a difficult audience. Hungover students is going to be a tough crowd. And the fact that half of them aren't going to show up is going to be difficult. And the fact that my lecturer that still scares me to this day is going to be in the room is also going to be tough. So it's a free opportunity for me to go and test something that I couldn't test on a paying audience. And so there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, my university's never reaching out to me. They were not fans of me at all, because I never went to uni ever. I just
Too busy flying for the nightclubs.
Yeah, just ran club nights. That was it, and yeah, had a good time. When I went to my graduation, because I got good at the exams. Like 2 weeks before the exam, didn't do any work, just locked myself away and studied. And then, this isn't advice, but yeah, did that. So I ended up getting like decent grades to be able to pass, and got the degree out of it. But when I turned up, I didn't recognize anybody. I didn't know any of my like fellow students. They didn't recognize me. But I can tell you for sure, the university's never never reaching back out to me. But I think that's an amazing opportunity that you've got that. I think it will be like really humbling, to go back and to get to present to them, and even just imagine yourself like back in their position. And I think it'll be like an even more fulfilling thing, like the way that you would say to somebody like, I've been in your position in business, and like here's what I had to do to get myself to here, and like that's like a real feel good thing to help somebody with and to be communicating. I think it'll be even more impactful to a younger demographic that was even further back in your journey, and being able to walk them through what needed to happen. 100%. Are you there to talk about entrepreneurship specifically, or? I
think I'm going to get thrown under the bus and get told about 10 minutes before I'm due on what they want from me. But it's that, 100%. It's that, like, having the humility to appreciate how fortunate you are to be in that situation, and like reinforcing that. And 18 months ago, I wasn't in this position. I wasn't getting the speaking gigs. I was sweating to try and get them. And the way I got them was to create my own event in the first place. And then the opportunities came off the back of that. But the ones where I've been speaking at events where there are other speakers, there's a 50-50 split between humble speakers who are very grateful to be there and just glad that somebody's offered them a bottle of water before they go on stage, and then complete dickheads. And just be the first one. Like, remember to be the first one, because the second one is unbelievable. And yeah, they sometimes get their own way, and yeah, some people aspire to that kind of level of aloofness, but it's just much nicer to be able to look yourself in the mirror and sleep at night. And I hope more opportunities come to kind people, basically.
I think we've got a lot of gratitude for anybody that would want to speak to us. Like, I know that like we're both doing well in our businesses, and we've got things to share, and we know that we know our stuff, but I think both of us come from like a place of just gratitude that somebody else would think about us in general. And so, just if anybody's watching, just like hit up me and Joe. We'll come on your podcast.
Nice.
Speak on your stage.
Nice.
In fact,
Please.
if this is on YouTube and you're looking for speaking gigs, then say who you help and how you help them, and drop it into the comments below, and then maybe we can create a bit of a community or opportunity board in the comments.
You're kind of saying that tongue in cheek, but that horrible BNI networking thing, but the givers gain thing is so true. Like, the more you put out, the more you give, the more you get back. And like, for me, success has meant that I can give more, and then the more I give, the more successful I've become. And maybe not financially, I just feel more successful. Like, I grew up in an environment where maybe I couldn't afford to get around in, and now I won't let anyone else get around in. And I love that. Like, I love that feeling. And ultimately, I'm massaging my own ego, but it's making other people feel good. And so I'm kind of all for it. And the same goes for speaking gigs. I love more that people go away and feel like I've transformed something for them than I do that the pitch sells.
Yeah.
It's like, when you see the penny drop with just someone in the front row, that is an amazing feeling, and you could well have transformed their life. It could be the one thing that changes everything for them. And I'm kind of like, and I think this is a good speaking tip, I'm kind of willing to put myself on the line to make that happen. I will tell stories that other people wouldn't tell, not because I want sympathy, but because I want to connect with the person in the room that otherwise won't benefit from that event. And so I'll like throw myself under the bus for the benefit of the audience, where a lot of speakers kind of play the dramatic video with the piano music on, but when it comes to actually telling the story, they don't get there.
Yeah. And see what you just said there about like the person on the front row. Like, how good does it feel as a speaker from stage, even when you just see that one person nodding?
Yeah, well, that's how you got me, right? That's how you got me. Like, the funny thing is, so I first came across you at a virtual event because it was mid-COVID, and you were speaking, and I'm like the nodding dog watching this presentation going, where the hell has this guy been all my life? And you can't even see me because I'm on a screen behind you as like you're trying to present. And actually, no, you came in virtually, so I wasn't even on a screen behind you. You just couldn't see anything. So
yeah.
and I'm like nodding around like, this guy's cool, this guy's cool. And I immediately got on a call with your sales team, and I was in straight away. But then I've like watched you speak 3 more times since then, I think, at other people's events, and multiple times at your events. And it's like, you're giving so much value in your talk. Like, you're giving away what most people in our industry would ask you to pay for. And to the point where the Shoney 255 system, I literally came away from your first talk and spoke to our team at the time, and I was like, we're doing everything wrong. Sort your lives out. Like, our marketing is shit. Watch this Scottish guy. And but it was the amount of value that you gave, and I've seen time and time again how many people that's brought towards you.
100%. I mean, in our marketing, we very rarely get anybody coming to us who hasn't had that impact moment first. Like, there's always, like, at minimum, there's a big aha moment around the change in their marketing style that they need for themselves, to stop following a one-size-fits-all and start creating for themselves. But more common than anything is they've been part of something where we've actually delivered like clients, sales, before they've ever actually become a client, which is good for retention, and we don't have to be sales snakes. We can just just make it as seamless as possible for somebody to join whenever it's right for them. But yeah, to dive into something that's just ever so slight, it's a 5 to 10 degree, but I want to touch on this as well, is your small group events that you've done. They obviously did really well in terms of, you got people in the room, you ran a lot of them, you present for a full day, you make a lot of impact, and then on the other side, you've got a lot of retainer clients out the other side. What's been your experience with small group paid events? Some of the things that are tough about them, as well as some of the things that you've liked about them or seen as positive business outcomes?
Yeah. I mean, I'm 50-50 on them. I am. So there's so I'll talk through exactly how we did it and why. We sell high ticket retainer, done for you services with a little bit of coaching tagged on, and to get people to spend 20 grand, 40 grand, 60 grand with you, you need a lot of trust, like a serious amount of trust, more trust than you can build by speaking on stage once. It's just, you can't do it in 20 minutes. It's not feasible. And so we created a system in our business where everybody would come to a discovery call. We'd decide on the discovery call if they qualified to work with us, and then transitioned into retainer. And the problem with that was that on a discovery call, people present the best version of themselves. And so at that point, they can afford it. They do follow up on all their leads. They do have all their processes in place, and they know exactly what's wrong with their business. And okay, great, become a client. What I found was 2-3 months into that 12-month relationship, people aren't quite what they say they are, or aren't quite as good as they said they were, and they're not willing to try and impress me anymore. And so the cracks would start to appear. And I needed a way to spend more time with people to find out if they were a good fit for our business, which sounds the opposite of selling. It's like I'm actually engineering a way for me to spend more time with people to disqualify them from working with me. And to start with, it felt really strange. So we'd put on these events and we'd hire like a fancy suite in a hotel. We'd allow a maximum of 20 people in the room. It would cost me about $5,000 to do. So there was a fair bit of tension around doing it. And I would deliver a huge amount of value. So the start of the day would be relatively emotional. We'd talk about purpose. I'd tell my story. I'd get people in the room to tell a little bit of theirs. We'd pull on the heartstrings a bit and find out what their true motivations were. And so everyone would be in like an emotional buying state, which sounds manipulative, but it was from a sense of truth. We were doing it because we care, and I wanted to know, okay, why do you actually do what you do? Because if the reason you do what you do is to get rich and you don't give a shit about others, I don't want to work with you. If the reason you do what you do is to have a positive impact in X, Y, Z, we're on. So we do this thing, we take them through, and then we get into the technical marketing piece, and then by the end of the day, I'd do some maths on the screen that basically explained what no other marketing agency would be willing to explain to you, how to properly budget for your marketing and how much of that you should spend with an agency if they can do what they say they can. So that was like my mic drop moment. And typically in a room of 20 people, half the room would sign up for a session with me. The thing about that is that takes a huge amount of energy. There's the energy to get 20 people in the room. So a $5,000 event ends up costing you probably $15,000. There's the energy to deliver and to open yourself up in front of 20 strangers and tell them everything that's going on with you. And then there's transition into sale. And then of those 10 people that sign up, then doing a one-to-one with each of those 10, and you probably end up with 5 coming into the business. That was a lot. It's a great way, if you've never done speaking before, if you can't get the bigger gigs, to grow the business, and it served me really well for 18 months. But I find myself getting like cheekier and cheekier with it. So I would be standing in front of the room, and I would tell them what I was going to do. So I'd be like, right, we're going to do this emotional piece now, so I can find out if you're all dickheads or not. And then I'll be like, and then we're going to do the technical marketing piece where you will realise that you can't do this for yourselves. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you how you can afford it. And the more honest and the more blasé I got with it, the more people signed up. But the more I did that, the better opportunities I got away from that environment. So that's when the speaking gigs really started to ramp up. This guy comes on stage and he tells us how he's manipulating us. And he tells us why he's doing it. And at the end, he's been so honest about the journey he's just taken us on that we all want to buy from him anyway. And so I've transitioned slightly away from doing the small event because I'd get the flu for about 3 days after each time I did it. So draining to stepping on stage and kind of doing it in an hour in a slightly jokey presentation and then transitioning to one-to-one from there.
Excellent. Super. Yeah, we do something a little bit similar with the 6 week game plan calls, which is whenever I tell anybody on the podcast, or if anybody's listening to this, they probably listen to other episodes, I usually say to them, we'll jump onto a call and in 20 minutes we'll write you out a 6 week marketing game plan. If you're thinking that it sounds too good to be true, the only reason that we do it is because we know within a couple of weeks you're going to come back and you're going to say, that was already amazing. How can I work more closely with you? So we'll give value up front and we expect you to come back to us and want to work with us in the future. So that sort of like honesty piece really ramps up the 6 week game plan builder calls for sure.
100%. People come to a one-to-one session with me, and before they come to that one-to-one session, they've been sent an unbelievable box in the post full of all sorts of bits and bobs. And they come into the session and like, I can't believe you sent me that box. And I'm like, yeah, it increases the chance that you'll buy from me. They're like, are you joking? I'm like, no. I'm like, I send you something to touch. I send you something to eat. I send you something to read. I send you something to listen to. I'm like, and I've dealt with all the senses that you've got before you get here, so you're completely disarmed. So by the end of this 2-hour session, we'll be working together. How's that sound? And they're like, oh my God, this is ridiculous.
I love that. And would it be too cheeky a question, or would it just be a complete spoiler for you to break out and tell us what's inside the box?
Oh no, happy to share. So this is Dan Kennedy, who is like a major marketing, a true guru, not a made up one.
Yeah.
In our space, came up with the concept of a shock and awe box. So if you've got a prospect, send them something that they'll really like, shock and awe them, and then the chance of them transitioning into a client is much higher. So we send out a box, and it's a branded box with a magnet on it, so it feels awesome to open in the first place. Like the box itself is fun. Then inside there's a Stay Hungry cap. We've got our own brand of coffee in there, which I believe you've stolen that idea from us. So we've got branded pens, branded coasters. We've got Vimto Millions. So there's two pieces of psychology with the Vimto Millions. Our target prospect remembers what Vimto is. So that hits. And then the word millions suggests that we're going to help you. And then and then the nostalgia as well of actual millions. Like that's the one thing everyone mentions. Then what else have we got in there? I mean, there's different things we can drop in there. So we've got these like giant pin badges of the dinosaur you can see behind me, made up now. So everyone raves about those. We've got the patches that you can sew onto a bag or onto a denim jacket. Like it's overkill. It's ridiculous. There's a 50 quid box landing with people each time. But they tell people and they share it on socials, and then they come into the meeting and they're excited to tell us about their favourite bit and the fact that they gave the branded water bottle to their kid and they take it to school every day. Like, it's such a conversation piece that we'd be mad to take that out of the process.
Yeah, that's absolutely class. And wait, when you said about the Vimto Millions there, and you said there's two reasons, I thought you were going to say at least one of the two was nostalgia. Because instantly I was like, I haven't seen those in years. Like, literally, I can barely even remember it, but just about remember holding it in Alt Bay shop when I was about 6 years old.
So I think, like, when we were kids, it was Blue Millions or Cola Millions. That was pretty much the two flavours.
Yeah.
The fact that you can get Vimto ones now, like Vimto's before my time. Vimto's pretty old school. But most of our clients are kind of between 35 and 55. So it's like bang on.
That is brilliant. Absolutely love it. Class. Well, to wrap up, something that I think we didn't discuss this beforehand. I've never ever encouraged somebody to offer a paid product, and I don't even know if you're comfortable with this. So on the other side, there might just be a link that goes to Codebreak's website. But would you be willing, if we won't even tell anybody what it is, but below the YouTube video, so wherever you're listening right now, below the YouTube video, one of the first things I'll drop below, if Joel gives me permission on the other side, because I know the impact of these and he shows me the impact of these, and I just think it would be fun. The pitch that you did in the room yesterday that was absolutely ridiculous, which, by the way, for hundreds and low hundreds, not thousands, you get to be in a room doing a one-to-one session with Joel specifically. If you'd be willing, and we could put a link down below for them to snap up the deal that you did in the room yesterday, that would be awesome.
Okay, so I do the pitch now. Shall I show
Do it.
people? Okay, so this is how you do a pitch, supposedly. I'd like to offer you the opportunity to come for a one-to-one at Codebreak HQ, which is in sunny Shropshire. We can do it on Zoom, but it's way better in person because you get a can of Vimto as well. So, but it's a one-to-one session where we'll dig into your business. We'll look at where you're leaving money on the table in the first place, where the opportunities are. You'll walk away with a 365-day plan plus a 90-day action tactics plan that you can go and implement straight away. Now, on top of that, we're going to dig into the things that are going well in your business, the things that aren't going well in your business, the things you should do more of, the things you should stop doing, and the things that you're not doing at all. Add to that, I'm going to give you 30 days support with me. So that will be in the form of a WhatsApp chat. You can have that 30 days before the session or 30 days after the session. And I'm going to add a progress call in after the 30 days to make sure that you're implementing the tactics and doing what you said you would. We charge $1995 for the session. I charge $295 for 30 days WhatsApp support, and I charge $195 for a progress call. However, today and today only, you can get all of that for $995. Now, that's obviously a bit of a grim offer stack, but there are people that will be listening to this podcast that have paid $995 to be on that session. Now, because I'm feeling generous and Neil has put me on the spot here, you can actually get that session today for half that price. A Neil Shoney Mac special edition, $495. And if you click the link that Neil's going to post below this, I'll knock a further £100 off. So you can have a 2-hour session with me, get all of that support for just $395. And just so you understand what goes on in these sessions, we've had people walk away from these sessions and within 5 working days add 40 grand to their business. So, as a guarantee, if you book that session with me and you come in and you don't think you'll 10x your investment, just let me know there and then and I'll give you your money back. If you, for whatever reason, don't like me, don't like the office, don't like Andy, don't like Martha or the team, just tell me there and then and I'll give you your money back. Or,
and you'll fire them.
And I'll fire the team. Or if you love the session and decide to work with us further, I'll refund the money against your fees. So it's 100% guaranteed either way. Hate it, give you your money back. Love it, give you your money back. And if you do hate it, that's never happened before, so it's a good sign that we're not meant to work together. And finally, if you're on the fence, you'll walk away with an amazing strategy that you can go and implement. I'm going to make sure that you do implement it and look after you, and you'll end up with a sore bum.
Excellent. And if you don't go for the offer down below, and by the way, I zero commission on this whatsoever. That's literally just because I think it's a good thing that people would get a ton of value from. If you don't want to go for that, you should at least probably re-listen to that pitch 3 to 5 times, deconstruct it and use it. Because the same reason why it's probably getting you going, should I, shouldn't I, is the same reason why if you plug and play your own style of pitch into it, then your own product into it, that it's going to work. So
and the structure there is really simple. So it's present the offer, add value to the offer, make sure that value is genuine, present a ridiculous deal, make that deal even more enticing, and then add a guarantee. That was the structure I just went through.
Yeah.
And all of those things have to be true. That's the only thing I ask. If you're going to use that tactic, don't talk shit.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. Well, thanks so much, man. Absolutely love chatting to you as always. And we could have easily taken this down the route of Facebook ads and other digital marketing strategies. We'll probably do that in a future podcast, but I've loved the angle that we went with. There's been so much gold in this that most people aren't talking about in the coaching and consulting space. And I know a lot of people are going to get speaking gigs, podcast gigs, and hopefully you and me as well off the other side of this episode. So thanks so much for being here, man. Really appreciate you. And thanks so much to everybody else for listening to The Shoney Show.